Yep, we're running. Right, hello, I'm back. I didn't actually go away. You were the ones that went away. So, what am I talking about? No idea. So, this is quite a special dram. This was very, very kindly donated by Chris and Lindsay Cook, who, this is Drinks by the Dram sample that is sealed, that turned up in a box of Drinks by the Dram that had basically been purchased by them and sent straight to me. And I very, very nearly turned around to Chris and said, I am not having this. I cannot let you purchase this for me to have. But he was pretty adamant, so I am for his benefit, but whatever's left is going back to them because I don't know if they've had this before. This is Kininvie, which is a pretty hard to get hold of whiskey. And the reason is it's here. And it's actually in the grounds of the Balvenie distillery, and it's essentially Balvenie B. In fact, William Grants and Sons, who are the company that own Balvenie Glenfiddich, could have essentially got away with calling Kininvie Balvenie because it's in the grounds of Balvenie. All it is a still house next door to Balvenie. The mash is produced at the Balvenie distillery and piped 200 metres to the Kininvie distillery. It's part of it really is. It's part of the whole complex. So they could quite easily not have done any delineation at all and just said we've got a new still house for Balvenie and we're just going to pre-produce the same thing. But Kininvie is what there is. So it was opened, as it were, in 1990. And as I say, it's kind of like it's a kind of a younger brother, pretty much, and has is used for blends. It's used in Monkey Shoulder. The three constituent parts of Monkey Shoulder as a vatted malt is Balvenie, Glenfiddich, and Kininvie. Now I have read that it closed in 2010. Because Ailsa Bay, which was the new distillery that Grants opened, was essentially doing the job times a lot more because it was a proper purpose-built, fully operational distillery as opposed to a still house, doing the jobs that the Kininvie was doing, which was kind of supplying all the extra stuff that they needed for all the blends and everything that Grants was doing. So, but everywhere else I'm reading is saying it's still going. So I'm not quite sure whether it is operational or not. Because where I'd read it closed, it was written a couple of years ago and they said I've heard rumblings that it's back open, and everywhere else isn't even talking about it being closed. So if anybody does know, if anybody's got any like concrete, yes, this is what's happening, please let me know in the comments, because I have no idea whatsoever. So Kininvie was one of those that it was like people sort of knew about it, but the assumption was it was never going to get released. Then there was a couple of official releases that was called Hazelwood, and it really was kind of like limited edition. I don't think it was single cask, but it really was like Hazelwood. A bit like Ailsa Bay. Nobody was really expecting it to turn up. And then in October 2013, Kininvie Batch 1 turned up all of a sudden and sold out. I think it was a limited market. I think it was maybe Asia. Then all of a sudden Batch 2 and then Batch 3, which I think is back end of last year, which is when it was released. So it's a 23-year-old. It was distilled in 1991. Now, I read in one article that they actually included some of the stock of Batch 1, which is distilled 1990, slightly younger, into this as well. But I'm not 100% certain. So it's bourbon matured, and then the last 6 months is then matured in ex-sherry hogsheads. It's 42.6%. So it's a bit of an odd percentage. I'm not sure if that's cask strength or not. At 23-year-old, it's possible, but it just seems a bit low for a 23-year-old. But it is entirely possible it's cask strength. I haven't got any water because at 42.6, if I do put any water in it, it's going to knock it under 40 probably. So it seems a bit pointless. So I'm going to try and get as close to under 25 mils of this as I can to ensure that Chris and Lindsay do have some of this, if they've not had it already. So this is what the bottle looks like if you wanted. Now it's actually sold as a half bottle, 37.5 ml, 37.5 cl. Yeah. 375ml even. And that is sold for 120 quid at the Whisky Shop and the Whisky Exchange and pretty much everywhere. Master of Malt, 123 I think they're selling it for. Which gives you a good idea as to how much this cost that they bought. I think they bought. Or they used a special offer. They better have got it for free. I'd be very annoyed if they actually paid for it. So yes, I'm extremely fortunate to get this. Because this is not cheap, not easy to get hold of, and I never, without doing the challenge, never would have come anywhere near this in my life, probably. So I would probably, certainly looking at the colouring already, I'm pretty confident they've not added colour into that. Particularly, that's a 23-year-old, and that's really quite pale. For bourbon matured and cherry cask finish as well, that's really pale indeed. Now it's quite spicy. There's a touch of chili spice. There's a slight kind of barbecue sweetness to it as well. Yeah, it's a combination of like hot chili and barbecue sweetness, and very, very, very gentle smoke as well. Kind of a very subtle. It's not quite dry enough to be cigarette smoke, but it's sort of it's like an ashy barbecue. But it's light. It's quite. There's a fresh edge to it as well. And interestingly, on the nose, what's on the nose is very similar to what's in the palate. There is a touch of chili. It's quite light-bodied. There is some silkiness to it. It's not like it's dancing on your tongue. There is some weight behind it. But there's a touch of hot chili. There's a sweet, not quite meaty, but there's a sweet barbecue sauce element to it, as well as because of the rich mouthfeel, there's a lovely sugary sweetness underneath. And then this real subtle hint of smoke. Where does that come from? But it's definitely there at the back. It's just kind of like this slight smokiness. So it really is like the dying embers of a summer barbecue. So it's nice weather, it's warm, the sun's setting, and you've got this slightly smoky, sweety sort of thing going on. It's good. It's really good. That one was a little bit more, that had a little bit more of a bite, that mouthfeel. There was a little bit more of a kick to it. It's still hinting at, it's not, all of a sudden it's turned into 46%. It's still definitely 40 to 43. But that one just had a little bit more of an edge on the side of the mouth and at the back of the throat. But it's definitely there. There's a real soft, subtle smokiness to it that just lifts everything. And it's a very silky mouthfeel. It really is almost creamy. It really kind of coats your tongue and the sides of your mouth. But there is this sweetness that kind of juxtaposes with the hint of smoke. But it works really well. They counter each other and support each other. It's a really good marriage of flavours. It doesn't bounce off. It's not dissonant. It really works well. And the finish is good. The finish really carries on. This sweet smoke lingers at the back of your throat. That's very, very good indeed. I'm picking more of the smoke up now. I think because I've noticed it, I'm finding it more. It's become more smoky. It's still not Isla, but it's becoming more to the fore. The sweetness is kind of drawing back and the smokiness is coming through. It's still light and it's still sweet, but it's more obvious smoke. And it works really well. Really, really well. and it is totally different to Balvenie. Not massively so, it's not like an islet to Balvenie, but if you were said this is basically from the same distillery as Balvenie, you wouldn't pick it at all. You know, if somebody gave you that blind and said, right, this is from a Speyside distillery, which one is it? You certainly wouldn't pick Balvenie. It's very good, it's delicate, but it's delicately complex. The Inchgauer that I've just had was delicate and worked. Wasn't a great deal of flavour profile to it. It was quite milky, and that was it. This is delicate, but this got a lot going on. There's sweetness, there's chili, there's spice, there's smoke. There's all sorts of things going on that are working really well, marrying together, not smacking you in the chops, not jumping out and going, hey, look at me, here's the smoke. They're just kind of like popping up, saying hello, and just getting on with the job. And that's really good. Would I pay the equivalent of 240 quid a bottle for it? I'm not sure I would. Yes, it's a 23-year-old. You're then going into the rarity of it, the difficulty of finding it, the age of it. 23-year-olds, 23 years is a long time. So is the price fair considering the package that comes with it rather than whiskey itself? Possibly. It still feels a little bit steep. But if I could afford that and I was treating myself, I would be happy with the end product. I wouldn't be disappointed with that. That is still a very, very good whiskey indeed, whatever the price. And I think, it's, if you forked out for it, you would be happy with it. You wouldn't think, well, it's not very good. You'd actually be like, bloody hell, this is really good, because that is a bloody hell a good whiskey. Very, very good indeed. I'm relieved now, because if I didn't like it, if I thought it was rubbish, I would have felt really guilty for Chris and Lindsay as well. So hopefully you can get enough out of that for the both of you. I'll stick that on your pile, which is growing rapidly. Right, that's me done. I shall see you in the next one. Cheers.